everybody, Kurt and Rob with Two Brothers Hobby, and we're here today with a new Rebel 70 Sport EDF jet from eRC. Rob, you've had a chance to take a look at all the details. There's really not a whole lot in the kit. It's really surprising.
Part count's low.
Big parts. This is my kind of kit. It's just 5 minutes and you're up in the air.
That's it.
Go ahead and get us familiar with what you can expect.
All right. Starting with the fuselage, we've got the 70mm ducted fan unit and motor already pre-installed. We've got a 45 amp ESC pre-wired. Open up the battery hatch, and we've got our servo leads for the rudder, elevator, and then the battery connector and the ESC connector. We've got our spot here for our steerable nose wheel. I'll show you that in a second. We've got a cockpit here, Kurt, with a pilot.
Yeah.
Kurt likes pilots.
It'll fly that much better because there's a little plastic dowel in it. I get it. I get it.
All right, we've got our nose cone that needs to be applied. There's really only two spots on this whole plane that need to be glued. One would be the nose cone, and one would be the exhaust ring here. That needs to be put on the back.
So that's just, since this is EPO, it's just standard.
Yeah, either that or
CA.
contact cement. Either one would work fine. We move to our tail section here, our horizontal stabilizer with our elevators. We've got the servos already pre-installed. Now the only linkage that you have to install also is our rudder horizontal or vertical stabilizer. When that gets screwed down, you've got a linkage to connect this servo onto your rudder here. Other than that, the rest of the control surfaces are already pre-linked. You have the linkages already pre-installed.
So this is pretty much just a screw together kit.
Yeah, it is. Everything's going to assemble with a screwdriver. You see a parts bag here. We've got some miscellaneous screws, a couple of horns there for the control surfaces, the control rod I mentioned earlier. Now we've got some servo leads here, and what these are is this allows you to either hook the servos up or the ailerons up independently or with a Y harness in your radio. Over here we've got our landing gear. We've got the steerable nose gear with the servo already installed into the whole assembly.
It's kind of a neat.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat feature. No linkage involved with that. It's already set up. Move over to the main wing. We've got our servos already installed. Our linkage is already set up. And what we've got here, which is kind of unique for a foam plane, is we've got a live, what they call live hinge, a nylon pin hinge. It's not just the foam itself acting as a hinge or a tape hinge of some sort.
However, I do notice the decal does go over there.
Yeah, there is an addendum to the instruction sheet. You do have to cut these off, slice them, either fold them down or slice them completely out of the hinge line, and that'll, on all your control surfaces, and that'll allow them to move then.
Okay.
So don't forget to do that, because that'd be a rough first flight. And that's pretty much wraps it up on what's involved on the build end. Kurt, why don't you talk us through the radio here?
All right. Well, if the build is simple, then I'd say the radio is even simpler. We're going to be using our Futaba T8FG transmitter, which we've used in a number of builds and assemblies. Very flexible and very capable computer radio system with what I would call an overkill receiver, but the R6008HS receiver from Futaba. We'll only be using 4 channels off of this radio. As Robin mentioned, there's an option for the ailerons either being connected with a Y harness or going independently in a channel, which would give you some individual adjustability on the control surfaces. And we'll go ahead and do that since we have the radio receiver to handle it, and it simplifies everything. We'll just run those 2 aileron servos into 2 separate channels. And then this model actually calls for a 2200 milliamp 14.8 volt, which is a 4-cell series a battery pack. So we have 4 individual cells. And we're going to run with the spec configuration. We actually have the folks over at Great Plains Hobbico sending over the new flight power batteries as well. So we're going to try this with the 50C discharge for that quick in-the-field charge rate. So that'll be kind of fun. So watch the review video for the flight video for that. But that's it on the radio system. Straightforward and simple. And since this system's receiver ready, all we need is just our receiver, our battery pack, and our transmitter.
To avoid the risk of sounding non-politically correct, I'm going to give you a chance to refer to that pilot figure as something other than a plastic doll.
It's an action figure.
There you go. That'll work.
It's a pilot action figure. If that's
yeah.
I know. When I said that, I thought, I've just offended half of the pilot supporting radio control community. So,
no, just us scale guys is what. Yeah.
Well, see, I'm the pilot though. I don't need a pilot. This is a long discussion.
It's a long discussion.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the flight footage, and then come on back for the second half of the review video where we put it through the 5x5 review process.
All right.